Singapore, Dubai, or neither will one city ever truly emerge as a global crypto hub. Welcome to the Daily Forecast, April 14th, 2022. I'm Megha Chadha of Forecast, covering all things blockchain. International regulatory cooperation and crypto crime are both on the agenda at the Paris Blockchain Week Summit, and Forecast spoke exclusively to crypto exchange Bybit at the event, getting the lowdown on their thoughts on those topics, as well as finding out more about their plans for a global hub in Dubai. We'll take a look at that plus a whole lot more coming up. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world.
Join thousands of NFT traders who already start their day on CryptoSlam.
Let's kick off with the future of digital assets in China. Digital collectibles in the form of NFTs continue to grow in popularity in the country. But the developer behind the country's state-backed blockchain-based service network, or BSN, warns that things could go wrong for the digital collectibles market if industry players in China continue to run them as, quote, investment targets. Forecast Timmy Shen has got the exclusive.
China's state-backed blockchain-based service network, or BSN, has lured over 300 companies to issue NFTs through its dedicated NFT infrastructure. But in a surprising admission to Forecast, the developer behind it is skeptical about the future of digital collectibles in the country. In an exclusive interview, Yifan He, the CEO of Red Day Technology, which developed the BSN, says digital collectibles carry the characteristics of quantity financial products, and there's no way for Chinese regulators to tolerate that. He shares that over 90% of the companies on BSN DDC, a non-cryptocurrency NFT infrastructure launched in January, are engaged in businesses associated with digital collectibles. But will Chinese regulators allow a secondary market for digital collectibles? He doesn't think so.
如果所有人都是按照一个投资物去做，那你就是一个准金融的东西，在中国是存活不下去的啊！我今天就可以给大家说，有一天，某个部门一句话，一个文下来就没了啊。
China has developed a sprawling NFT market, with tech giants jumping on a bandwagon to issue and sell digital collectibles. Last year, a Shanghai-based think tank reported that the digital collectibles market in the country had ballooned to 150 million yuan, or over $23 million. Despite this growth, China has yet to set clear regulations on the trading of NFTs. To avoid being banned in the future when regulations become clear, He offers this advice.
你不能说我把它就设计成一个金融东西，我就让大家买，然后等它升值，然后互相交易什么的，变成一个金融性的东西。现在大家比较小心的，为什么是不知道这个频次多少是它是合理的。
Despite all the buzz over NFTs in China, He wants people to be prepared for the risk.
这个数字产品现在虽然很火，但是我认为他们风险很大啊，不看好。然后呢，其他的应用呢？大家就太早期了，还没到看好的时候。
For Forecast, I'm Timmy Shen in Taipei, Taiwan.
Over in France, the Paris Blockchain Week Summit is underway, with crypto exchange Bybit, which recently announced moving their global headquarters to Dubai, in attendance. Forecast got the opportunity to catch up exclusively with their team on why they're making the move and what that means for Singapore's role in their operations, as well as taking a dive into crypto crime and regulation. Forecast Carolyn Roy reports.
Bybit was granted an in-principle approval to conduct a full spectrum of virtual assets business in the United Arab Emirates at the end of last month. At the same time, it also announced it would be moving its global headquarters to Dubai. And speaking to Forecast at the Paris Blockchain Week Summit, the exchange explained why they chose to make the move.
It was very easy for us because we realized that the UAE authorities are actually very open into embracing cryptocurrency and to drive it as a global hub for cryptocurrency. So part of this will allow Bybit to actually be able to be part of the regulations around the shaping all this regulatory framework and support the regulators with our professional knowledge and expertise.
However, Lam said that doesn't necessarily mean things are over for Singapore.
We are always in talks with regulators on that end, and we are always open to having open conversations with them, and to more importantly to be able to work with them and to operate legally according to their frameworks.
Lam agrees that we may not see a single central global crypto hub emerge and says Bybit are looking forward to working with regulators around the world to set up more operations. And keeping with the theme of regulation, the exchange's Spot Business Development Director, who spoke at the event, told Forecast that strong regulation is good for the DeFi industry.
Stronger regulations definitely will help Bybit, to meet more requirements. I don't see it's a bad thing because overall speaking, so we are trying to fight against the crimes and the frauds and these kind of problems in the industry. So we need to protect the majority of the people from these kind of negative things.
Of course, we'll be keeping watch for any other key developments as Paris Blockchain Week continues. For Forecast, I'm Carolyn Wright.
A digital US dollar will require years of development and not months. That's the view from US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen in her first speech on digital assets. And while that timeline may disappoint some, what do those closely involved in this new economy make of her speech? Let's get in Mark Lam, Chief Executive Officer at Coinflex, a leading crypto derivatives exchange and yield platform. Great to see you again, Mark.
Yeah, great to be here.
Mark, to kick it off, Janet Yellen said that a digital dollar could become trusted money comparable to cash. But given that we have already dollar-backed stablecoins that perform pretty much how a CBDC might, would they have taken the lead by the time a digital dollar comes to fruition?
Well, I think the powerful thing about the US market is it is a competitive market where they allow the private sector to, do all sorts of things. And it really, there's the spirit of capitalism and the free market there. And so the opportunity America has is to get more dollar proliferation around the world. Dollars are not just a currency for America, but they're a geopolitical tool. The US dollar as a reserve currency is very strategically important to the US. And stablecoins are part of that policy mandate. Stablecoins on the margins proliferate dollars and increase the usage of dollars around the world.
Well, picking from this point then, now the USD is the de facto currency for international trade. And Yellen also said that a potential CBDC would have to support the dollar's role in international markets. But the world of digital currencies is a multi-coin, a multi-chain one. So how would this play out?
One of the issues the Fed has also talked about is just the simple fact that if they create a pathway to hold deposits directly at the Fed, it kind of begs the question, what's the purpose of a normal bank? Because right now you can't hold deposits at the Fed. And so if they disintermediate banks in this way, it creates a massive competitive pressure where if you're a large corporate or a large holder of dollars, it just from a risk perspective, it makes more sense to hold them at the Fed rather than at a bank. The Fed has zero counterparty risk. So I think stablecoins, privately issued stablecoins, are actually sort of a perfect counterplay to this because they don't have this problem, as it were, of being issued directly by the Fed. That is the beauty of stablecoins. Ultimately, this is not about just competing with the existing system. This is about creating totally different forms of payments and finance and, new world finance, new world, economic transactions that have never even been possible before. It's never been possible to have dollars programmable on a blockchain. It's possible the US will create a CBDC. I think they have a lot of competitive pressure to at least continue to have very public efforts towards doing so. Actually launching one, I think they're more likely to launch one that banks can use rather than one that retail consumers can use.
Well, to your point, these are new systems that have never been seen before. Yellen also spoke about the need for regulators to have a tech-neutral approach when developing policies to protect consumers, investors, and businesses against risks from digital assets. What's your sense on how we could see regulations shape up, and what's the role and the challenges ahead for policymakers?
We think the US is ultimately the most forward-looking jurisdiction in the world when it comes to stablecoins. I think the role for the regulator is really in helping make sure that stablecoins do what they say on the tin. You know, the promise is very simple. It's a crypto token worth $1, redeemable for $1, mintable for $1. Simple promise. And how is that promise achieved? Well, it's important for it to be backed by good collateral. It's important to be backed by $1 worth of collateral and assets that are in aggregate worth the same amount as the market cap of the stablecoin. But some stablecoins are not backed by good collateral. And I think there is a powerful role the US can play, and the different regulators in the US can play in basically saying, okay, this is a regulated stablecoin, and this is, you know, not something we recognize. You know, regulating a stablecoin as a designated stablecoin is kind of a powerful next step that's going to bring a lot more confidence to consumers and also to businesses and corporates using these as payment tools.
Regulations would certainly be important in driving the interest in stablecoins. Great conversation and insights as always, Mark. Thanks for joining in.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
And finally, more growth in the seemingly unstoppable NFT space. The latest to venture in is Line, Japan's most popular mobile chat app. Line officially launched its NFT marketplace through its Osaka-based blockchain subsidiary LVC yesterday. Users can purchase and trade NFTs on the platform and store them in Line's BitMax wallet. About 40,000 NFTs are now available on the platform, including content from Japanese entertainment conglomerate Yoshimoto Kogyo, the popular anime series Mobile Police Patlabor, Line's character Betakuma, and more. The communication app has over 90 million users in Japan alone, and the company says it plans to launch a global NFT platform this year. You can find those stories and more at Focus.news. And that's the Daily Forecast. And now you don't need to search for us. The Daily Forecast is being delivered straight to your inbox. So sign up at Focus.news/newsletter. Thanks for watching. I'm Focus Megha Chadha. Until next time.